We're doing well. Very happy to have you on the program with me this evening, and
Thank you.
we want to chat a little bit with you because I think that you have something very interesting to tell the Dominican population, and speak about your writing and everything else. But first, I wanted to share with us, who is this Miss Nestor?
Miss Nestor is my full name is Fanalia Nestor. I was born in Dillis, and I grew up there until the age of 15, until the British government, as you know, we were governed by, Sir Lawrence Lindo at the time, until they said that at the age of 15, you have to leave school. I didn't have time to do my exams, and my mother and father felt that instead of being in the village hanging around, it's best to join my father in Britain.
Okay.
So I came to Britain in the year 1959 as a 15-year-old with no experience of a foreign country. And my book is about the experiences I had as a 15-year-old right up to the time of during my marriage and rearing my children.
Good, good. That must be a very interesting story.
It is. It is.
Leaving Dominica at the time, going to the UK, and I'm sure there are lots of side stories about that in terms of your acculturation in the UK, and coming from Dominica, coming from Delis in Dominica.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about that when you, in fact, when you just got into the UK. How was it for you?
It was strange. It was different. When we arrived in Victoria Station, seeing the black cabs and everyone is hustling. I mean, in Dominica, we are quite slow. We take our time to also, we strive to do whatever we have to do. But in Britain, people were walking fast. If someone is walking with you, you have to be able to keep up with the person.
With them, yeah.
The accent, the language, the way they speak, the way we speak. I mean, I was born with my French patois accent, which I still have. But you have to listen we had to listen very carefully to what the English people were saying in order to understand them. I mean, I will give you a joke. When I first arrived, my father said to me, the milkman is going to come, and when he come, pay him. So the doorbell rang. I went down to pay the milkman, and when he came to the door and so on, when he spoke to me, I didn't understand a word he said. I just said, "Oh, thank you very much," and shut the door. And I went upstairs. I had no idea what he was saying. It took me a while to actually understood the language. They would say to you, "Oh, yeah, mate. Come on, yeah, mate." This kind of language, accent, and a cup of tea. And I'm used to my coffee.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my grandmother loved the coffee. Her name was Etienne Ibrahim. She was like the matriarch of the family. Very strong coffee, and in the evening time, and then they do, like, you remember the guep with bit of foreign flour material.
That's right.
And the children, we used to have, after they do the strong one for the big people, we used to have the second lot, which was milder. So this is what I was used to. But then I had to get used to tea. Then you have to get used to all the contraptions. Because, I mean, one of my hindrances when I first came and so on, I end up, washing in cold water, not knowing how to light the fire. Because, what we had back home and so on, you have a kitchen, you get your firewood or charcoal, and, you put your pot on top and cook your dinner. Then I had to learn to use the stove and so on. And being my first day in Britain, it was just a hindrance. Can you imagine how cold the water was? It's like icy cold. Because it was the month of October. A month before the winter month started, like September, and things like that. It was really, really cold.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's get into your writing. You decided to write what I think is a very interesting book the people need to know the topic: chocolate, chips,
Chocolate.
and cola.
Yes, yes.
Where did that
I've
title
got
come
I've
from?
got the book there. I don't know if everyone
Yeah,
can see it. The
yeah,
chocolate and
yeah.
cola, with the Dominica flag.
Flagged.
As
I
you can
noticed that.
see,
Yes.
I would not leave that behind. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's I could actually um tell you a little bit about the book. It's a book about a young girl, a 15-year-old coming to this trade country, and with all the customs and ups and downs, and finding herself in a situation with a stepmother that she didn't know existed,
Uh-huh.
and the cruelty she faced in her hands, and not having her mother or sister. There was no one else apart from my father, and this woman was my father's mistress. And as a 15-year-old, and we grew up in a culture where you respect your elders.
Right.
So I couldn't very well be rude to her to upset my father, because this is the situation I was in. So you have to swallow your pride and put up with the abuse. So what I went through is in the book. The first chapters of my book is concerning my experience with her, and the second chapter is about my experience of love and having children. And how would I put it? I would put it like the experiences I had within the marriage, and marrying at a young age, not knowing what marriage is all about. Because I mean, as a 15-year-old, you're a kid, you're sin and not to be heard. So
Right.
when adults are talking, you are on the side. You don't listen to adults' conversations. So coming into this strange situation, and by the time I was 17, going into marriage, it was quite tough.
So you
Yeah.
got married at 17.
Well, I didn't get married at 17, but the book will explain it all.
Right.
I don't want
Right.
to give too much away to
Because
the
people need to
person
buy the
just in
book.
case. Yes.
But talking about the book, there's a segment in the book that mentions, gives some historical background and the setup. For example, in Dailies, you are
Oh,
Nestor.
yes, yes, I
Yeah.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
born Nestor. My father is Matthew Nestor. And as you know, he's related to the Sorendos. And in the book, I mentioned the Sorendos and the situation between his father and his mother, his birth mother,
Uh-huh.
how it came about, and the history of the island, and how mother's parents managed to be in Delis. So all
Hmm.
that is in the book. But when you read it, you'll see the history, how it happened, how the two families came together, the hindrances that his father came across in order to change his name to his mother's surname to marry his mother. So there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
little
Very.
bit of history about the island as well.
I found that very fascinating, because it cements a lot of the sociology of the country in terms of where we came from. Something that
Yes,
people probably took for granted in a sense,
yes,
did not put a lot of emphasis on, as to the kind of familial relationships and the differences, for example, even in small communities, between one surname and the next.
yes, it is. And it's because my grandfather, Marcel, had to change his surname from the Sorendos, because the racism and everything. Well, I don't know if you've read the book, but you'll
Mhm.
see the scenario, how it
Yeah,
went.
yeah, yeah.
And his mother was much milder, much more calmer, sort of a lady, and she helped him to change his surname in order to marry his then wife,
Right.
who was the daughter of a couple that was taken on board ship as slaves.
Hmm.
And she was the first daughter. She went into service for the surrender families.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the two fell in love. My grandfather and her fell in love. And, you know, the same, I mean, in Britain, the same racist way that they behave, they carried that culture to the island. Even nowadays, you know, in Dominica, I had the experience in 2014 when I was waiting at a certain office. I'm not going to call the name.
Right.
And a white chap came in and they served him over my head. And I'm saying the same thing carries on, you know, and things like that. Some of us still haven't learned that we are equal, regardless of your color, your race,
Now,
you know, your creed. You know, some of us still haven't understood that, and
right.
it is still being practiced today in the on the island.
Is there some relation uh, to that aspect of it and the chocolate chips?
The chocolate chips is the experience I had being in an environment with someone that is hostile to you, because bearing in mind, I mean, it's in the book that, you know, my parents wed very young. My father married my mother very, very young. And you know the circumstances of him coming to Britain, if you read the book and
Right.
so on.
Right. Right.
And the situation I found myself in with, well, she was like a stepmother, although she wasn't my stepmother because my mother was alive,
Uh-huh.
you know, and so on. And she was my father's wife.
Right.
She wasn't a wife; she was just a mistress.
Right.
But in this new environment, she didn't see herself as such. She saw herself as the woman that had the power,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And as a young person, you know, I had no power. I had to put up with whatever she did to me. So when you
What?
have to survive on these three things, I mean, when you read the book, you will, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know if you've
Yeah.
read it, you will see
Yeah.
when you have to
Yeah.
survive with this thing. And that is how I use this for the cover of my book, because it's embedded in my brains.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I experienced.
Yeah. 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 What profound lesson that you believe that the culture shock that you experience, the heavy weight that you had to carry, and your journey of survival. I mean that you have recorded in the book. What lessons you think that somebody reading that book will begin to glean?
Well, if someone reading that book, especially a young person, well, it could be anyone who would read that book and is going through the similar experiences. It might not be the experiences I had. His or her experience could be different,
Mhm.
but at least they will learn that whatever you're going through, where there's a will, there's a way, and you can survive. And one of the things, you know, to trust in God, because through it all, I was having psalms given to me, although I didn't put that in the book. I was having psalms given to me by, I saw the Lord in my dreams giving me psalms, and I made it my business to learn these psalms and say them. And this, you know, religion helped me a lot in that, because my grandmother was a devoted Catholic at the time. I'm a Pentecostal now, but at the time we were devoted Catholic, going to church every Sunday, morning service for children, Vespers in the afternoon, etc., etc. And I think that helped me. Trusting in the Lord helped me a lot. Because if you got no faith, there is no one there to support you. Your parents, your sisters, brothers are all back in Dominica, and you're being oppressed. The thing that the person, the spiritual being that I turned to was our Lord Jesus.
Very
I would say
interesting.
to anyone who's going through that, trust in the Lord. He's alive. He's there for you. He hears you. He sees the situation you're in, and he will help you to overcome it. And I would say to anyone, this is the best way to cope with it when you are in this situation with no support from relatives, and you in of a strange country. You know, you barely know the people. you're struggling at home, the best way to cope with it is to trust in the Lord. That's what I would say to anyone going through this similar experiences that I had as a young person, and being a young person with no experience.
That is, in my view, very instructive, because especially these days we have people who downplay the effect of Christianity and religion and God and everything like it's like that. But I noticed that your resilience is foundational on that kind of relationship,
It,
even through all the storms, through the hardships that you experience, through the, maybe I can call it in my summary, the maze that
yes,
you experience from 15
yes,
to become the woman you are today. To credit God for it is something that I think people need to know, that through the rough times of your life, when the people you expect to love you don't love you the way they want, you expect them to love you,
exactly.
that kind of thing. There is somebody who's still, willing to take care of you.
Yes, because I mean, I don't know. A lot of people may not believe in Jesus, but I believe in my dreams because the Holy Father said to me, "Read your Bible," and He gave me the Psalms, and I remembered it. I memorized it, and up to today, whenever I pray, I repeat those Psalms.
Hmm. Hmm.
I will, whatever is going on in the family, I will repeat those Psalms, and it's so helpful. It's like he lifted the burden off my shoulder, and He had it on His shoulder, and that helped me to survive. It's like weathering a storm. I weathered the storm and
Hmm.
came out on the other side. And through writing that book, getting all the atrocities out of my head, what happened to me in my life as a 15-year-old, right up to the age where I am, it's just the powers of the Almighty God resting on His shoulders.
I am heartened to hear that. And let me just pause a while to tell our listeners that the book is available on Amazon, amazon.co.uk. You can get the book available there. The Kindle version is for £10, I think it is.
12,
10.99, let's say
12.99.
£11. 12.99 for the paperback copy.
Yes,
Um, and you can get the Kindle version almost immediately if you pay
yes,
for it.
yes,
If you, I can give you all that information. If you want to pay for the paperback version, delivery to Dominica is $23, £24. Okay, you can get it delivered to Dominica for £24. So it's something that I'd recommend you look at, because of I find the intrigue in your writing,
okay,
and the kind of, how should I put it, the candidness of
yeah,
the journey, if you like,
yeah, yes.
um, kind of is eye opening, and I
It
would
is.
recommend people to look at this, because it's a lesson in resilience.
Yes.
It's a lesson in being able to go through the storms and still have your head up. Am I right in my summary?
Yes, you are right. You
Good,
are right.
good.
Because it's not many people that would have weathered that storm and came out of it unscathed. Because, we live in a society today that, 3% of the population is suffering from mental illness.
Yes.
And it's because of the stresses of life,
Uh-huh.
social pressures. And I did not let that affect me. I soldiered on. And I wrote this book so that my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren will have that book to pass it on to their families and to know what their great grandparent went through and survived. So if ever they ever coming through those crises, they can look back at that and says, "This is what happened to my great grandmother, and she's weathered the storm and came out of it unscathed."
And I think that's a very good reason for writing the book. I want to commend you highly for doing that,
Thank you.
and making it available to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is chocolate chips and cola.
What is the cola?
My pastor friend is asking me, what is the cola?
Cola.
Cola is like in Coca-Cola, but you can't use the name Coca-Cola because it's a brand.
That's
So
correct.
I just put it down as cola.
Cola.
So why did you do that?
But I'm very, very happy that you could speak to us about that and open up that book to Dominicans and people. It's easy to find. Go to Amazon, check out chocolate chips and cola, and right there you'll see it. It's written by Fanalia. It's in fact on the book cover. You'll see F.S. Nestor. And by the way, Fanalia is the sister to Pastor Gilbert Nestor.
Oh, really?
In case you're wondering, right? She is the sister to Pastor Gilbert Nestor, that I'm sure every Dominican should know, who pastored the People's Pentecostal Church for a while, and so on. So, and I'm sure he's in the listening audience tonight. So, in case you're wondering who that lady is, that's who she is. I was really taken up, and maybe that's the part of the book that you have written to me. As a sociology student, if you like, the fact I was wondering, I always wonder where surnames come from, right? In Dominica, so somebody say you are so and so Larrock, I say you from the West Coast, right? And I ask where your parents from. That, but the surname Nestor, I could not at all figure out where that person came from. I have someone on the telephone. Let me take that call. Let me find out if they have a question for you. Good evening. You are connected.
Yes, I'm connected. I have a question for you. Although I was asleep, I didn't hear when you came in. But you and Pastor Jack says I like to mind all the business. But
hold on a while. You know I'm talking to a lady, right? I'm interviewing some lady about a book.
Yes, that is
you
what
called
I'm
me about
going
that.
to.
Okay, great. Yes, you minding our business for true.
You're so busy, but you wanted to know the lady's business.
Which business?
Not you?
Which business?
The lady with the book.
Well, she wrote her business, so I have to ask her questions about her business. What question you have for her? Tell me. Yes.
Till another day.
Okay. So you don't have a question for my guest?
No.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, I was saying what fascinates me about that is some things that like I said, Dominicans take for granted. And you made mention of a scenario you had right here in Dominica. Jack and I have been talking about that all the time. That very often when we hear, for example, about racism and so on, we always think of the UK and the US.
Yes, that's true.
And we never think that right in our midst, we see that happening all the time. And I'm glad you made reference to that. So those two areas, that and the surname thing, when I understood Jack was Litham, I had to ask him where that Litham came from.
Yes.
Dante Adams is here. I asked him if his father is from St. Joe. Yes. Tell me a little bit about that as we begin to wind that up. Yes.
Oh, well, the surnames, I mean, as I mentioned, the Sorrentos and things like that is from the days of Columbus. I mean, you know the story of Christopher Columbus sailing to the Caribbean islands and leaving their men on each and every island. Mm-hmm. The Ferdinands, the Sorrentos, they're all of Spanish origin.
Right.
So that's where the surname came from. But the surname Nestor originated from Britain. And as I mentioned in the book, how it came about that my grandfather, great-great-grandfather from 3 generations back, managed to travel from Britain to Guadeloupe, and then from Guadeloupe to Dominica. I mean, he spent time in Guadeloupe, as I mentioned in the book. And following that, when the First World War began, he had to flee because it was between England and France. So he had to flee Guadeloupe, or as the gendarmerie would put him in prison.
Right.
Anyone that was English would be jailed because he was at war. The 2 countries was at war, England and France. So he fled to the nearest British island, which was Dominica. And that's how, the Nestors managed to settle in Dominica, and marrying a Sorrento and so on. These two families joined together, became very, they became the elite of the village. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, and I hope that we will get some people interested in. Although people Dominica don't read enough, if you ask me those days, but we get some people interested in doing that. Especially, I ask the young people, for example, in particular, to begin to read that. It gives you some perspective, and it should strengthen your resolve on
Yes.
on being resilient and
Yes.
understanding that life is not always a
But
bed of roses.
Rose, exactly.
Yeah,
Because as a
but
young
we
person growing up, you heard stories about the streets of Britain being paved with gold. And
yeah.
there was talk like, oh, people have to buy denim from Dominica, get their relatives to buy denim in Dominica to ship it to them in England because things are so posh and things like that. But it's not like that. It is tough. And building a life in Dominica is, I would say, it's worth it more than traveling to Britain, because there were teachers and doctors and chemists, or all different kind of professionals who gave up their jobs in Dominica to come to Britain, only to end up on the buses and the trains.
Wow.
So it wasn't the bed of roses that people believed it was,
Mhm.
and it
And
still isn't.
the mentality is still there
Yes,
that we still think that going overseas is like going to heaven. We
yes,
go there and get
yes, that
everything.
you're going to be
Get
better off, but you're
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, in Dominica, you could make a callaloo. You would go and catch some fish, and fry it and so on, and it tastes better than the ones in England because it's been in so many different fridges with ice that it take away the taste.
It loses its fishiness. I told that to
Yes,
somebody
yes,
in the US some time
yes,
ago.
yes. You know, I mean, in Dominica, someone is slaughtering an animal. They blow their horn and things like that. You would say, well, give me 2 pounds of that and 2 pounds of that. And, in my grandma's days and so on, as a child and so on, my grandma would say, well, I'll give you a basket of yam or sweet potatoes.
Right.
Send me 2 pounds of meat. It's like the ancient days,
They would
the
batter
time
it.
of the Holy Father when he lived
Yes.
on earth. People, that's the way people used to trade.
Uh-huh.
And in Dominica, that's the way I used to see, my grandma and things like that, and the elders of the village trade. You're slaughtering a cow or a pig and so on. Send me 2 pounds. I'll send you a basket of something, whether cassava or whatever it is. That's the person's preference.
Right.
So life was okay. You didn't need money to live. And it is one thing I will never forget about Dominica. When you look at other countries and you see famine, children are on the street, and things like that. You don't see this kind of thing because people are farmers. They plant and live off the land. And this is an admirable, way to live.
I'll tell you something though, and that is how I was raised as well. However, that is changing a little bit.
Okay.
And I am concerned about the mechanization in a sense.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the influence of the North American, lifestyle on
Yes.
us.
Mhm.
And so now we're seeing some things at a level, if you ask me, that we shouldn't see for many reasons.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's something that we need to work on as a nation.
Yes.
And I'm hoping as well that your book can begin to open people's eyes as to
I hope.
the relative independence that we enjoy.
Yes.
Individual, I'm talking about, that we can begin to create for ourselves, that will give us more of a personal pride about what we do,
Yes.
and help us understand that we do not have to take the blows, if you like, from
Yeah.
certain
Absolutely.
quarters because you are not somebody child with a certain surname,
Yes.
or you're not linked with somebody who is in a certain office, but you can begin to pull yourself by your own bootstraps and be resilient
Exactly.
about growing up. And
Exactly.
I see that coming out of your book.
Yes. And one of the things I noticed in 2020, I came to Dominica to when my mom passed away and so on. And the breadfruit, all these lovely crops are dropping off the tree and it's just rotting. Avocado, it's rotting. And the young people, were just sitting around, and it was so different because in my day growing up, as a child and so on, I mean, I was born in 1943 and so on. So up to the age, of 15, and when I left Dominica and so on, people were planting their gardens and doing things, and young men were learning carpentry and helping to build houses and so on.
Yeah.
It was very active, but people are very laid back. Like we are going to the supermarket like they do in Britain to buy the things that you can grow yourself. And I find this a little bit, thing, because I mentioned it to a couple of people. They said that's the way it is nowadays. But I don't live in the country, so, it's very difficult to say to a young person, At one point, I even offered, a couple of youths money to actually do some planting around the house, to weed around the house, etc., etc. And they weren't interested. they weren't interested. And in the old days, people used to jump at the chance. They used to say, if you do my garden for me, I'll help you to do your garden. Instead of paying, the person to carry out that work.
But you see, that's exactly what we're talking about. And I have a comment on one of our Facebook viewers who's saying that now we have been taught that dollars are more important than our values.
That's right.
And so we have lost that. And that's why I'm saying that your writing should, if anybody picks up the book and read it, it should begin to give us a new perspective on value.
Yes.
You value yourself. You're Black, yes.
Yes.
You're living in a white community where you're Black, but you are humanly Black.
Yes.
And that you have as much value as anybody else.
Exactly. We are equal. The Lord created. Well, if you look at this kind of thing that is coming out nowadays about the true Israelis, I don't want to go too deep.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the thing, we as the true Israelis should know about this thing, the value of us as a race, as a Black race.
Mm-hmm.
If you get my drift,
we need to understand that we were made with value, and the person who created us did not make any mistake.
Yes.
In what he did.
And
people have to understand that whether you live among Black people or you live among those who are not Black, you are as important as anybody else.
Yes.
And nobody should enslave you because of your color, because of the village you come from, and so on.
That's right.
Nobody should look down on you for that.
Exactly.
Right now we are having a new kind, if you like, a new kind of enslavement, which doesn't bring people on the farm to farm cane or whatever it is.
Yes.
It just makes people lazy.
It does.
If you give them a handout. So it's a new kind of slavery, if you like.
Yes,
and I'm really hoping that people can be enlightened as to what do I do that keeps my value, that keeps me as valuable as God created me to be.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
But I want to thank you very, very much for joining us on the program. And I want to thank you and commend you and congratulate you for writing the book. If I recall, it was written and published in March, was it?
Yes, it was.
Right. I want to commend you on that, and really look forward to hearing other people talk about it and see it in their hands, and that we all can be enlightened by it. I'm thankful that I go into contact with you through my friend, Pastor Gilbert Nestor. You're a good brother, and I'm very happy to know
Thank you.
Any closing comments you want to have?
Well,
before I take your closing comments, somebody's asking.
Thank you for having. Go ahead.
Before I give you a closing comment, somebody's asking me online there for the name of the book. The name of the book is Chocolate Chips and Cola. Chocolate Chips and Cola. It's written by F.S. Nestor, lady born in the lovely Commonwealth of Dominica, Jean Delis.
Yeah, Delis.
All right, so that's the name of the book. If you want to get it, it's on Amazon. You can get both a Kindle copy and you can get a hardback copy. The Kindle copy is 11. The hardback copy is £12.99. So either way, it's nothing much that it's good. It's a good investment in new information. So Mr. Peltier online, that's the name of the book, and you can get it. And for the rest of you listening to us, you can go online right now and get the book. I'm sure that you can read it. Yes. Now I have your closing comments.
I would like to thank you and thank the listeners for having me on and listening to me. And I hope that whoever buys that book, it will be an eye-opener that will help them to understand. And, as we go through life, we face waves, no matter what community you grew up in, and this book can be an inspiration to them.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for staying up with me. It's what? It's 11 your time now?
Yeah, but it's after 12 now, but it doesn't matter because I'm not an early sleeper.
Okay. midnight. I thank you, and I thank your is your granddaughter who was communicating with as well.
Yes, she is the backbone of putting me through and doing all the mechanical things online.
Okay. Wonderful. Good to have you. A very good night to you, and we look forward to seeing more people reading that book. Okay. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Rodney. Good night.
God bless you. Good night.
Father made me who I am. Children, I am. Father made me who I am. I said I am what I am. By the grace of God, not this thing here. I am what I am. Only by the grace of God. And number one, I am a son of God. Romans 8:14. Redeemed from the hand of the enemy. Psalm 107 verse 2. I am born again. Colossians 1 verse 14. Saved by grace through faith. Ephesians 2 verse 8. Man, I'm justified. Romans 5 verse 1. And I'm sanctified. 1 Corinthians 6:11. I am. Father made me who I am. And number 7, I'm a new creation. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Partakers of his divine nature. 2 Peter 1:4. Redeemed from the curse of the law. Galatians 3:13. Delivered from the powers of darkness. Colossians 1 verse 13. Strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had Fanalia Nestor with me on the line talking about her book, Chocolate Chips and Cola. Somehow I happen to love the book title.
The thing was intriguing for me because honestly, some of the references she was making just brought back some, I don't know, have to sad memory, bring me back to my upbringing, because everything to do with my upbringing was connected to UK. I've said that I'm not ashamed of that. When my father left, I was still in my mother's stomach for 4 months. My mother was 4 months pregnant with me. So I didn't see my father till I was 18 years old. And all what he was talking about, one of the things I learned from the history, when they used to say, well, you're not supposed to be there. So I was the baby. And I would hear pieces of the conversation about England, what was happening. And England was for me like more poor. My father may be more poor. Someday I'll go more poor and I'll see my father. I had no concept as a child of what England was. All I was here is Papa England, Papa England. I only talk money, Papa, talk money, Papa. So I was wondering, where England is and who that Papa is. And I heard stories that said exactly what she said. England was not the bed of roses that the people, because my father went to England maybe in 1959 or 60. And I heard the stories of what they endured. Even though it was not related to me directly, let me tell you a story. But when they came home, people came home and they talking. I remember my mother giving a story. Maybe now she's too old, she's 95 to remember that story. She said, when my father went to England, one of the things that he had to do was to wash his own clothes when she was in Dominica. When he was in Dominica, my mother did that. And he said one of the things that surprised my father was he put clothes to soak. And he went to work, and my father was what they call big titles, train engineer. He worked for London Transport till the day he retired. And when he came back, the whole business was frozen. So the shirt and everything, and he's shocked because he's coming from Dominica. You put your clothes to soak, and when you come back, you wash it quick. And I heard that story when I was growing up, that he came back and the clothes cannot come out in the business because it's all frozen. He had no idea of all those things. So, and as I grew up, and my brother, I have a baby brother in England. My father had after out of wedlock, and he gave me little bits and pieces of what I'm hearing today. So while he was talking, he just like brought me back to a not too pleasant season of my life. Was connected to London. Everything, while I was being raised in Dominica, but everything I did had to be connected to London. I had a very good, great, may she rest in peace, Randy's cousin. What she was here?
Which
She was
one?
married to your uncle, my godmother in London. Lillian Rodney was my godmother.
Oh, Lillian Rodney
Was my
was your godmother married to, yes,
Yeah, I think your uncle.
my uncle, yes.
Right. So that was somebody again who
My father's brother.
That's right. That's a person who connected me to London. I look forward for my pastor, for my Christmas money, for my this money, for my education, everything. We connected to my godmother. I had a lovely, maybe the best godmother on earth. She's not God. So UK has played a special place in my heart. This year when I went back to UK, everybody was saying, "How long is you in England?" I said, "Guys, come on if you come back." So yes, and everybody was shocked. I went to England on Thursday, and on Sunday morning I was back in Dominica. I excuse me. I struggled to get out of the hotel to go make up on the day. It was so cold. I'm not a winter person at all. I've never done good in winter. But UK, I love England. I love London. I like to stay in London for a vacation, just when it's not too cold. I like the parks and that there is always something to be done in London.
Mhm.
I also like the fact that every day I could eat at a different restaurant. Greek, Hebrew, Tubaga, I don't understand. Restaurant, all kind of restaurants. And that was something I loved in London. Also, I love the transportation in London. I can move like that in America. When I'm in America, I'm tied down. I have to have a car or I hit the train and the bus. But in London, I never felt hindered. I can move from one end of London to the other using my pass. My father used to have, my father worked with London Transport, and that is one big company with train, bus, everything. Once I have a pass or a card divided for me, I can go from one place to the other. And to walk from where the bus puts you or where the train stops and go to the bus, cool breeze. So I love London. London is a place for me to go for vacation and just have a good vagabond time. Yeah, it's true. Every night I can think of going somewhere without going to Belgium.
But Jack, the whole thing is that there is history
Mhm.
that I think other younger people need to understand and need to know. but there is also current information
Yeah.
that we need to make ourselves acquainted with. That going to America is not always going for better. Going to UK is not always going for better.
Yeah. My experience of America was completely different. When I relocated to America, um, exactly what you're saying, my dreams were just shattered. I was like, what are you talking about there? Why would I leave Chartwell and be in America? And none of my relatives could understand it, my brothers, because all my people were in America. And as soon as I landed in Virginia, it was 1985. And I landed in Virginia and had to drive across from Virginia into Washington, across the bridge. And there's a big, huge bridge you must cross. And that was, the first impression is the lasting impression. I get across, it was January 10th, I think. So you know I'm in the middle of winter. So as I went across the bridge, behold, I saw people like Titiwi under the bridge in cardboard, on the cardboard and newspapers. And I said, that is America. And my whole dream was just based on that. I said, what am I doing there? There are so many people in the middle of winter freezing under a bridge. And you come to tell me this is paradise? And I never got accustomed to it. I remember that when I went to my first job, I had moved to Boston. And the first job, for the first month I worked, I had to receive my check in Dominica. I started to work because when you get a green card, they give you the job already, you go do the job. And I work 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And the fourth week I say, I get up, I say, I go in Dominica. I left America. And they sent me my check in Dominica because I wouldn't wait for the payday for me to get the check. That is how devastated I was of America. But I cannot say America itself was bad to me. But I was so shattered with the American dream. The picture that was painted, you going to America. In the UK, when I first spent time with my dad in UK, the first time I was a big man and I was with my father. And he painted a very good picture of America, United Kingdom for me. You know when the tourist treatment, that's what I received from the United, and when I was in the United Kingdom. But the first time I came and got me the tour and bring me all that. So that was my impression. But in America, I went there to make a living. And I'm saying, I'm not going to Chatwell. So,
All right.
So it's not all the history. And I saw too many people whose dreams were shattered and were too proud to go back home. I didn't want to stay that long to the place where I cannot go back home. So I never settled. I just make sure, even when I came to the point of after 5 years, I came to the point where I was becoming a citizen. The immigration law had sanctioned me not to move and stay for residence. And I got up one day, I realized the 6 months were taking too much time. And I said, I did something, and I said, I'm going down. And when the 6 months reached, called me, and I did. And I succeeded. That's why I became a citizen. So not even that I could wait for while I was in America. I went up, I agreed with the immigration officer, I'll stay. He asked me, gentlemen, make up your mind where you want to live. I tell him I'll stay. Just so I said to the woman, it was an immigration officer woman, I said, I'll stay. And I stayed. But after a while, I said, boy, I have to go back to Dominica. I never wanted to settle in a country where things have become so bad that I'm not able to go back. I experienced some racism in America, not in England as such, but in America, I experienced some racism, and I did not know what it was. Somebody else had to tell me.
But I want to move from that, Jack, because I want people to get into the book, read the book, get an experience, and then they can call you and consult with you. I will charge them a consultation.
Okay,
fee.
no problem.
I will take half and I'll give you half.
Yeah. And you'll give Dante half.
It's already 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on the Monday evening, Jack. And tonight we want to talk a little bit about some stuff, right? What do you think we should begin to talk about tonight?
Well, I don't know. Somebody was irritated when I mentioned that, and sometimes I'm almost like a daredevil. That if something I say irritates somebody, I am likely to repeat it because I think it's having an effect on you. If you're not responding, I didn't say much. But if I say something that get everybody, it's not because I want to get some trouble, but I did not intentionally say that to get so many people wound up. And I noticed when I spoke about freedom in Dominica, and the second time when I mentioned fear, the level of fear that people live in Dominica. And I remember making reference to a friend of mine whom I was trying to make. I said, you don't understand the level of fear and the slavery. I like when you said a while ago, it's a new form of slavery. And it is. I don't think Dominicans are ready to actually face the reality on the ground. And we still live in a fantasy or imaginary world. And I think the lady who wrote the book is still living in Delhi in 1940 something. You know, she's
living in London now.
Yes, but she's still in Delhi.
Right.
She has an expectation that if she come to Dominica in 2014, that she could get a young man to go and clean the NIL for her. Now, who would leave black sugar or upset their plantation to come and go and clean your yard for you for $60? And he spends, $60. He'll give you $60 as a tip, but he will not. The average young man will not go and do anything for you in Dominica when he can plant a piece of upset and a piece of black sugar. No, you're not talking English. So I would go.
You know what Pastor Jack said there? What is that?
Yeah, as don't.
What is a piece of black sugar? What is that?
An upsetter.
What that is?
Well, go and check your dictionary.
I think you should check your dictionary.
I'm going to Google it. I don't know what that is. You all have me there.
So I say the reality on the ground. If you cruise Roseau, when there's no school, Roseau empty. You can just cruise Roseau and just speak. Don't act like a journalist. Have casual conversation with the average person you meet. If you have some people, even as business people, that you have a good rapport with, speak to them. And in the realm of the spirit, ask the Holy Spirit to help you to see the spiritual side of the conversation. And you will hear the level of fear. Don't laugh. you Google, you Google it, you'll get it.
I don't know what are you talking about there.
Google it.
I am very.
You see the level of fear that is expressed at every level in Dominica. It is not a poor man thing or a rich man thing. It's just if you move from, I'm not asking you to classify people, but if you move just as random, speaking to a businessman, you'll hear one type of fear. Speaking to the lady at the market, you'll hear a type of fear. Speaking to a school child, you could hear the fear. And one thing that kind of unite all of us in Dominica is fear. Because the red people are very fearful and the blue people are fearful. They just, you speak to a person who supports the government and they are afraid of speaking to you if they don't sense that you support the government.
Right.
For somebody whispering to me, I listening to you every Monday night in Dominica.
Yeah.
He's afraid to speak, or she's afraid to speak to me, to tell me she listens to Q95 on Monday night, how she likes me, but she doesn't have that freedom. She's afraid, and she has to look left and right before she says that. And where she's speaking to me at a supermarket, at some Jollies, we are there while we're in a line looking for some medication, and the person say, "Oh, you are Pastor Jack?" And you could hear the hush hush, don't it? In Dominica,
Yes.
on a bus, somebody would say, "Oh, look, Pastor Jack, what's up?" And then all of a sudden, a hush tone. Boy, I hear you. What is a boy? I was speaking to one of my schoolmate, and the other day, tell me, boy, they put you in prison one of these days. I said, for what? They tell me, boy, on the radio station, you did. I said, what you? And we kept the conversation, but it's in a very man. How could you be a Dominican, born and bred in Dominica, and do not have the freedom
to listen to the radio station of your choice.
Jack, that is a subject that you're right. It creates uneasiness.
A lot for me. I don't know for you.
It creates some anger in some quarters when you begin to speak about it, and I'm sure it will. But it's a real issue.
But it's minimized in a way and politicized in a way to make it palatable to the people in the diaspora who come and vote and run. They don't experience the daily effect it has on a Dominican who wants to live in Dominica.
All right, so let's expose that. Fear, ladies and gentlemen, is the emotion that comes out when you feel danger or pain or hurt, or you may feel danger, pain, or hurt. And Jack is expressing something to you that I'm familiar with. Are you familiar with that as well in Dominica?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So people are afraid to go to certain places.
Yep.
They're afraid to be seen with certain people.
Yes, sir.
They're afraid to speak a blunt piece of truth if it's the truth they know. They're afraid that anybody else see them talking to somebody else, to the point where there are people who are scared of going to a certain church
Yes.
because they feel if they are seen going to that church that
They'll be victimized.
they'll be victimized, and they feel that way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is not a figment of somebody's imagination. What Jack just mentioned to you, I experience it all the time. The difference with me is that when they speak to me in secret, I speak in loud. I'm honestly, when they talk to me, is then I shout in, because I'm responding to you and I'm saying that to you very, very openly on the telephone. Good evening, you're connected.
Good night.
Hello, good night.
How you are doing?
We're doing very well, thanks.
Okay. Let me tell you that I fear is a demon by itself. And I used to work for Nazi, and every time I see Nazi, I used to be afraid and trembling. Until when Nazi in 1970 years off. But when I came to the Christian realm, I realized that is not, you can go bow in the and be afraid of a man. And from that day, I pick up myself. But fear still continue. But I have a book I bought on the Logos 15 years ago. From the author is Chuck Colson. I think he was one in the Watergate affairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that book I bought it on the Logos and I read. And every day I see in it, who will speak for God? And there are times I wanted to say something, and then like you're afraid who it is. But when I come to the reality, the God is greater than fear. And the Bible said that in the book of First John, say, if you have fear, the love of God is not in you. And I continue to practice this, and I practice it in my illness when I don't feel well. And I realize you can overcome fear. God is greater than the fear. And every time I look at that book, I keep on saying, who will speak for God? So you have to say something. You may not speak it in good language, you may not speak it in as the Bible tell you, in noble way or in good speech. But you have to say something. And that is what we have in the world today, that people are in the church, we sit down, we talking, we laugh, but when we go outside, we are afraid to face people in the world. The Bible tells us we are the head and we are the tail. So you know, some of the words of God, we have to try to put it in our hearts and practice it and, apply it and see where we're coming from. Because if we just sit down there and just be afraid, we'll reach nowhere. And fear no man. You understand? The Bible says fear no man, only fear God. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, here is the issue with that, Jack. I was never fearful. Okay. I some of the things that people say about being afraid of people, I was never afraid of people. I was never afraid of speaking my mind. Right? When I began to see how let me take those calls and I'll come back. Good evening, on the telephone, you're connected.
Good evening to all pastors there.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm good. I'm listening to you.
Very
Porque
good.
se police for himself.
Si yo poco po mo, iba po mo ko.
Laisse mon na ka parler. Petit parler. Ou ka hele, ou ka parler plus fort.
Oui, mo ka play, mo ka. Depuis yo commencé fait petit parole mo ka hele you. Yeah, it's me, that's Pastor Randy. What you say?
Pastor Rodney, I say maybe it's for me you're talking because I have always been seeking. I took a little time off. I relaxed. But when I hear those things, Papa, about you can't prevent me from calling the radio. Why you don't want me to talk the radio? It's not your money I pay in. My money on my phone, I call who I want, where I want.
Mhm.
What you want to tell me? What I call in the radio station for all the time.
Right.
That is not your business, man. That is my concern. And as a matter of fact, if I talk for people that cannot talk, people that afraid to talk. I happen to get just because I'm calling the radio, I suppose, and I have people even telling me, but you're not afraid. You just calling the radio, you're just afraid. Afraid of what? What can you do to me?
That's the question.
Yes, I have got victimized, but where did it reach? Where did it reach? I didn't reach anywhere.
That's the question.
I'm still what I am,
Yeah.
and I will still be what I have to be.
Amen.
You cannot shut me.
Mm-mm.
You're doing wrong, I will tell you you're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Amen.
If you find I doing something out of the way, you come, you talk to me like a gentle person and say, look, I hear you doing this or doing that. Not good, no? I will understand. Maybe I'll be able to change. But don't come and talk your nonsense for me and telling me about, oh, you hear me talking, what I talking for. And some of them not even messaging me and telling me about, oh, but you retire, you just start calling the radio for now. It's not your money you're using to call. Don't tell me that.
Amen.
Some people not easy, eh?
No. Mhm.
Pastor,
Yeah.
keep on talking.
Yes.
Don't worry them, no?
Thank you.
Well, they already say, do pastor. Who are doing pastor?
Mm-mm.
Nobody are doing pastor.
No, nobody have
If you
to.
say something right, Monday, I have to
It
say
right.
say something right.
That's
Yes,
correct.
That's right.
Amen.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's
Thank
all.
you very
See,
much.
that is one is not afraid.
I'll come back to that in a while. On the telephone, good evening. You are connected.
Yes, I'm connected again.
Mm.
Pastor Randy Rodney, it seems as though it's the West Coast people that behave like that.
Hmm.
Somebody met me 2 weeks ago. The person is on the other side.
Hmm.
And the person come in and hold me right in my neck as though the person hugging. I don't know what was that. Then no, I just come and ask you, is true you're not getting electoral? I said, electoral reform, who said that? What is Smith I talking to you just? I said, yes, but if you can hear well, you have to stream to make sure you know what the person tell you.
Yeah.
After when I don't see any person back.
Because of that loud, you see.
Okay.
It happened to me.
All right. Listen, so I was saying I've never been fearful. Okay. I have always learned to speak my mind.
Right.
And then I've spoken to my mind to people on both sides of the political fray all my years, since I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I have with Oliver James Carriffin can tell you, the other politicians, some of them who have, gone die. I speak my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Until 2005. And my mother, God bless her soul, like they say, says to me, Randy, o papa you vini assassine you? So, Mama talking about? And she tells me what people say, what they, blah, blah, blah. And I went to my wife's community in Monrachet, and that is predominantly labor.
Yeah.
Well, they were predominantly freedom. They are the classical freedomites into labor. And some of them would make comments and turn around and say, were you talking to me? And everybody goes quiet. Those who know me know I'm good one. So if I have to, I walk down the road in Roseau, any street, and people make comment about those pastors on the radio. I turn around and I said, if you want to have a conversation, you can have it with me, you can have a conversation with me. But the fact that you're saying that like that, you're more afraid than me. So I began to understand, Jack, that the people who sometimes try to push you in a corner is because they are fearful of where they are standing.
So that is what I'm talking, the level of fear on every side.
Right.
The different fears. I'm not talking about my personal fear.
Mhm.
You may be able to handle, you're not afraid. But I'm talking about the spirit of fear that is prevailing all over the
All over the
country.
place. Right.
And I feel sad, very sad for people when you interact with them to really recognize the level of fear that is in these people. Say that man has a job, that man is a businessman. But what's going on? You see me chuckle a while ago, and I made reference to my godmother when I was referring to you.
Mhm.
I think I gave you the joke. That is why how it was because of the radio station. It was because of the radio station.
She told
that
me
my
before she died,
She told you?
Yes.
My
Yes.
godmother called me all the way from Pishley.
Mhm.
And she used to call me my son. And she said, my son, I have to talk to you. And you must not follow that boy. She began to give me a lecture. She tell me about that boy. And you are the boy,
Yes.
And she tell me, you forget I am Randy. I am
Lillian Rodney.
So I know those people. Don't follow the boy. When the boy saying his thing on the radio, for them to call your name and says you that say that I love you, my son. And my godmother went on. And I pick up, she became so fearful.
She had summoned me to her house,
I did not know that.
She had summoned me to her house.
Call me and tell me not to speak on the radio
Mm.
because she's afraid that what they're gonna do to me. And when you say your thing there for them to say it's me that say it, so she don't want me to be on the radio.
Can you imagine what she was married to my uncle?
Yeah, she told me. She told me she was telling me, well, she's not against you because she's married to your uncle. She know you.
Right.
She know those people.
But the reason why she tell you so is because she had summoned me to her house, and when she told me so, I said, let me
I
tell you
didn't know
something.
that.
I said, look at me. Mon papa Diabu Savanti. That's why I call her Papa Jab. So
That's why I laugh.
So what you're telling me there now, it doesn't make sense to tell
And
me
I
that.
really love my godmother because she knows that I have that respect for her and we have that good relationship. So she said when she listened, she could know it's me. I never told her I was on Cuba. I didn't know she was listening to Cuba.
No, she knew. She
But
knew.
She was
because she
was
confirmed
so
it with me. She
afraid.
asked
I
me.
didn't know that about you. But she was so sincerely afraid that something was going to happen to her son, my son.
There are
my
people who
son.
still are afraid for me. And I said to them that if anything happened to me, somebody that do it.
Of course.
Because I'm not afraid of the devil.
Yeah.
Nobody can send spirit on me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much powder you use. It doesn't matter how much makaku you do.
That
It doesn't matter in which cemetery you go.
That part I don't worry
That
about.
does me. So
my
I
concern-
cannot be afraid of
No,
you or
my
anything
concern,
you can do.
My concern is not about me being afraid of nobody. It's appointed unto man wants to die.
Right.
And my appointment, I don't know
when it is. But I'm ready for it.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm saved. I think about all things I know. I'm saved. I'm secure in Jesus Christ. But what concerns me, we speak from the spiritual realm. Fear is of the devil.
It is.
When you are in any country or any environment, you can just go to a meeting. And if you could sense a spirit of fear among the people, if you are a man of discerning spirit, you know there's a level of witchcraft going on there. So I know for sure in Dominica, there's a high level of witchcraft going on.
But pause, Jack.
That
Pause.
tells me
I want to interrupt you
fear
because
is of the devil.
I'll tell you something. And I want people to understand that from both contexts.
Mhm.
I'm going to use an example to draw that.
Mhm.
There are Dominicans living in the US who are afraid of Trump.
Yeah.
Okay? They're afraid of what will happen. No. Can I be honest with you?
Mhm.
I'm so happy about that one.
Really?
Yes.
Remember, I have children there.
I'll tell you why I'm so happy about that one. I mean, I go to the US. I went to the US the last time, in fact, twice in maybe last few months. And people ask, you got problems with immigration? So why are you asking me that? I mean, no, I mean, with this traffic, you don't got no problem. No. In fact, I gave them. I said to somebody something. They said, "You sure they didn't set you up?" I said, "Well, if they set me up, is a problem." I flew into Miami.
Mhm.
I went to the immigration officer, checked me out. That's what I usually do. Hi, good day. How are you doing? Blah blah blah. And I'll make probably small talk with them while we.
Yeah.
And this person, this gentleman had what I thought was a St. Lucian surname, and it was a St. Lucian surname.
Okay.
So I said, "Excuse me, sir, if you don't mind me asking, are you St. Lucian?" He smiled. He says, "Well, I am told that my grandfather is from St. Lucia." I said, "Well, okay." He said, "How did you ask?" I said, "Your surname." And I could tell you what community in St. Lucia that
You're
is
from.
predominantly that surname. And we chatted for a while. And he took my passport, fingerprinted me, make sure I was me. And so I said to him, I noticed you didn't stamp my passport. He said, "That's go, you're right."
Mhm. They know it's on the screen.
So I mean, normally you check the passport and they give you a stamp to say you have 6 months.
It's on the screen.
Not a thing they give me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time that was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that with one of my people in the US. He said, "That's what happened those days, we boy."
And when you come back, it's already in the program. They know when they swipe their passport again, it gives a record of when you came in, when you go out. So if you overstayed, they know.
So he looked at
They
me
don't have
and
to stamp you.
he asked me no question, not where I going, nothing. He just
No.
Okay, you didn't say my passport. No, that's okay.
No.
You're good. You're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the same time, Dominicans who meet me asking me, "You have problems with immigration, no?" And I said to them, "You came down to vote, no?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I say, "Well, yeah, you'll have problems."
You make them more afraid.
Here's what I'm saying: that this witchcraft thing, we have to look at it from both,
Mm-hmm.
right? Both aspects. One, you're correct that wherever there is witchcraft, wherever there's witchcraft, there is very high level of fear.
Yes.
But everybody who creates fear in you is operating from a spirit of witchcraft.
Yes. Everybody.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to understand from two areas.
Right.
What they do, my brothers and sisters, is that they're using a spirit to manipulate you.
Yeah.
And that is demonic.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to watch it. Now, here's the part that some of you, will like me for or love me for. Good evening to my favorite cousin who's online. I know you're not afraid of Trump. Say, family, you are my DNA. Let me tell you something. We have to get to the place where we come to appreciate that pastors, politicians, and people in authority generally
Mm-hmm.
sometimes utilize that demonic spirit to get their way.
And they call it authority.
They call it authority.
It's demonic spirit.
That's correct. Right? And every one of you need to know that. Pastor Dante is a young pastor among us here. Pastor Jack probably is a pastor older than your age, I'm sure.
For sure.
Right? Right? And Pastor Jack became a pastor and SPay. Now, I am saying that is something that very often inadvertently, sometimes by style, sometimes by rote, sometimes they do not know how to lead. And they want people to follow them, and they use these kinds of manipulative spirits.
Well, in the demonic world, what we do on structure and organization is called transfer of spirit. Now, for me to get you afraid, I have to be afraid. So for me to give you the spirit of fear, it has to be first in me. When somebody is dabbling in witchcraft, the person who's dabbling in witchcraft have to first be bewitched. And they are used as a channel to spread the spirit. That's what happens to most politicians who go and people of authority go for power. What they don't know, what is happening to them, the person, the witch doctor, puts the spirit in them, and they go and utilize that spirit, what we call transfer of spirit, in other people. So a boss man who's full of fear speaks to you out of his fear and make you afraid.
Yeah. Makes you afraid of him. On the telephone, good evening, you are connected. Hello.
Hey, good night, Pastor and Mr. Jack.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, I'm just listening to your program, very educated. I listened to the lady you were speaking to from Davis.
Right.
History is a very important subjects that you don't forget your past. That's one of the things they teach you in university. For instance, your country where you come from and even the Caribbean, you must know that. If you don't know that, it will make sense you come to university. But Pastor Jack, you're touching a point I really, really want to follow up on you.
Mm-hmm.
How do a country is going to progress with the human resources when it comes to work, when there is such a fear,
Wow.
uncooperative in workplace? Because what I noticed those days, everybody I speak to, even in the government administration office, and I know of many experience that the people cannot work in them environment. They just leave in and they go overseas. Ask for the younger ones. And it's not to say it's like management that fire them. They just can't work.
Yeah.
Is it that fear? And the other one is a lot of family dividing.
Right.
Husband and wife breaking up, family, brothers and brothers, sisters and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And it becoming like a pest, like a disease.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run away from it. You just can't run away from it.
Well,
That's great question.
Well, the thing is,
Good question.
it is a deception. Many people who use the demonosphere is sometimes they think is to increase production. In sociology, if you understand how the human brain works, and we have that colloquial, the patois expression, which often not used in English, that if you put a human being in a comfortable environment and he's treated properly, he increases production. That's why even though we were slaves, that the slave masters were smart enough to feed us well and to make sure that you can reproduce well, give you a wife, because you will work better. But when people are under fear and frustration and bitterness, it decreases their production. So what they expect to get out of it, it will backfire because people don't naturally work that way.
On the telephone, good evening. You are connected. Yes.
Pastor Randy, I have a question. Let me get off your line.
Okay,
because
sorry.
I knew you was in the bowels.
Yeah.
You used to be with Rosie on the movements in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Late 70s, yes.
Rosie was at the bottom of the ladder politically.
Mm-hmm.
Unpopular. Everybody was afraid of him. Even the alliance, the strong people that was around him. And he would find himself at the top. You can imagine even the alliance reject him and he was find himself at the top.
Right.
And don't care how fear you heard about Lucy. When he approached you had to come like a lamb.
That's
what
right.
was that power? He was a magician or he was a high science? Because I could remember 78. I was a young boy in Marigot. I was just before the election. Pastor Randy, I think, had to run as a candidate. A Korean man, a businessman, brought in around $1.5 million US in a suitcase for Rosie at Mendenhall. They did send back the man, but Rosie stopped the man somewhere between Antigua and Guadeloupe, and that money have come back. Because there were certain people that used to be around Rosie, Rasta from Pegu side. I don't see much, and people like Sogo. Some of these guys, they go to Russia and train to do intelligence service and all those things. How you are so connected, Mr. Pastor? And give me a little answer on that. Have a good night.
Wow, I can't speak for Ruzi. What I can say to you of the little that I know is that he had an uncanny knack or ability to win you with words.
Right.
And
You are correct with that.
when he came across to you, he came across very believable. When Ruzi spoke to you about an issue, he came around like any professor, and he provided to you a good introduction. He gave you the raison d'etre for where he's going, and when he's finished talking to you, guess what? You won. Now, when Ruzi spoke to us, some of us who were around him, you had to pay attention. Okay, you listened, you connected everything he said. The man was a good orator, but he was a good communicator.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things about Rosie. Now, very importantly about Rosie is that he came in where you are, and I hope I'm saying that right, because that's one of the fundamentals of great leadership, right? He spoke to you from where you are. He wasn't in a top-down way. He wasn't demanding from you or dictating to you. He came, he found common ground, and so he won your heart.
Okay.
Right? That's how I can tell you I began to follow Rosie at the disappointment of my mother,
Okay.
who I love very dearly. Okay?
Let me tell you something. I did not run with Rosie or to be close to him, but I listened a lot. I was impressed with his oratory style. One thing I can compare Rosie now with what we have now. Rosie had what we call the us strategy. Rosie spoke and always make you feel part of
That
us.
you are
us
important in the
thing,
club,
and
yes.
he's trying to bring you in.
Right.
Here we have
It wasn't
you are
telling you what to do.
punished for not being in.
On the telephone,
That is
good
what-
evening. You are connected.
Hello, good evening, Pastor Randy, Pastor Jack.
Good evening, Dante.
Yes,
My friend Bosso, how are you doing?
boss. So yeah, not bad, not bad. I just on the radio because I was, I'm driving and I had a CD on playing, and I just remembered I put it on.
Right.
And when I incoming driving out from north to my home, I thinking of certain things, and I'm saying, boy, as a boy, and I grow as a man, and I've seen in our country where people disagree and stuff, and more so when your government is doing something you disagree, no matter what government it is, they find a way to, yes, defend themselves, but also to engage you. I think those things have disappeared. And the guy called about Rosie, and Rosie was a guy who did not, I would say, quarrel or vex with you based on where you are.
That's right.
He kind of accommodates you where you are and give you his side of what he thinks. And if you agree or disagree, that's you. But if you remember in 1995, sorry, not 95, in 1985, we went to Granby, there's a Freedom Party for a meeting. And we had this meeting, and then election came, and Freedom Party lost the Granby seat, which he had won in 80, and Pierre Charles won. And a couple days after, I am in Roseau. In those days, they used to fix TV by Karam there.
Right.
Karam, so I had my little TV. Young boy, bring my little TV there to fix. And here comes Pierre Charles and these other guys were there. And Pierre Charles saw me, my little TV begin there. I think Madam was operating there. And Pierre Charles say, Boston, uvini Gambé, pale sotu, di mo genyedu. Okay. And then Rosie told him to leave the young man alone. I mean, you have your right, the man is right. That's what Rosie did, leave the man alone.
Right.
So I did not answer. I put my little TV down. I get my little card and pay what I have to do for repairs. And I came back. And I said, Pierre, me more poison.
Okay.
So he tell me, more do you go to parler sort, me more gain sit more. I said, Pierre, si me ou te pet sit ou be partout te gain. If me ou gain sit ou partout pet. I mean, some of who I and so forth. And Rosie is there telling him, leave the young man alone. Whereas in today's time, the others who say they're leaders will join him to belittle you and to cry you down and not respect your own right to disagree and to agree and so forth. And I'm coming and just reflecting on that coming up, and just so I hear you all talking about this thing.
And quite frankly, that was the difference with Rosie Douglas. I tell people that's how Rosie Douglas won me, right? Because he gave you a reason to fight or to agree with where he's at, right?
Yes.
He never took you down. He never threw stones at you. He never crossed you eye. He would always greet you, no matter if he felt that you were. Again, let me tell you, Bosso, Rosie knew where Kulbisri was, and at the time there was this place right next to the school that was called the House, right? Rosie knew that they, at the time, you remember when Rosie and Mike were on two different sides politically, right? This guy supported Mike. Mike used to go in the house and say and do anything. He was the major around the place. Rosie found himself there too. That's who the man was. right?
Yes.
And that's why I said to people that this Labour Party has nothing that you can align with some of these old guys.
For example, when Rusi became prime minister, I mean, a couple of days in his prime ministership, a guy had died who was a strong Labourite, and there was the funeral, and then we went to a cemetery close to the Newton Savannah there, cemetery right there,
Right.
and we're all standing there, and we were standing there in the cemetery with police around him and so forth, and he's just natural among the people there, and then lady came from the road, what we call a car road, and she jammed under his stomach. He said, Rosie, and she used her hand and gave her a on his stomach. So the police now decided, hey, I mean, the lady was out of place to have done that.
Right.
And they really, put themselves up in order to deal with her. And Rosie said, no, she just greeted me, leave the lady alone, She just greeted me and so forth. And I remember Sister Rosie says, yo, look, see Rosie there. And when he was on the platform, you see what I have to say. But when he finishes that, he like a lamb,
Exactly.
He come home and he look for his bigs and so on, he like a lamb and so on. So don't bother those.
Yeah.
And so I think have just changed in Dominica. And the thing about the witchcraft is when a person involved in this thing, they themselves are afraid, as Pastor Jack said. Because, and even if you look at it there, when people are involved in mischief and they're grounded by spirituality and so forth, they always fear you. They fear your ideas, they fear your involvement, they fear your commitment.
Your fear your presence.
Yeah. So all the best, man. And
Thank you.
Thanks for this Monday night.
Thank you, also. Thank you,
sure.
Gentlemen. We just began to introduce the subject. It's already 8:00 tonight. We'll
talk about fear and freedom.
We'll talk about fear and freedom when we return here, and I'm hoping
a critical look at what is existing in Dominica present. Maybe we'll make background history.
Where we were.
I like that. Yeah.
We'll introduce that and we'll come back. Pastor Dante, closing comments tonight, and then Pastor Jack, before we close this thing down.
But it was my pleasure to be between. I don't want to say two thieves,
You mean you are Jesus on the cross? No, you're in the middle cross. That's fine. We'll give it to you.
Yeah, you can go with that.
It was my pleasure to be between these two esteemed gentlemen.
Yeah.
And just listening to them was such a pleasure. And it gives me enough to go back and to think of, even as a young one in my generation in this time. So it's blessings to you all who are listening, and see you tomorrow morning if God spare life.
I hope this series, as we develop this idea of independence and freedom and fear in Dominica, it will be an eye-opener to people to what is actually happening on the ground. Apart from just calling math, face some reality of where you are and what you are feeling and what you are thinking as a born and bred Dominican. God bless you. Have a good night.
All right. So we began to talk about freedom and fear and freedom, and I want you to join us next week. Do some research and let's talk about it. Let's see where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I will remind you that in 1995, 1990, and 1995, the United Workers' Party, when they were formed, campaigned on the slogan, "Fear no more." And now I don't even think that slogan would be tough enough for where we are in terms of fear. But we'll discuss that. And whether you agree with us or you don't agree, please feel free to call us and give us your point of view. We reference Ruzi tonight and his ability, his uncanny capacity to speak to people out of mere freedom and get you to his side, whether you believed in what he said or not. And we will discuss that as a people. Call your pal rep and tell them to call us as well. And we will ask them the questions about fear and freedom as well. My name is Randy. I'll be back with you on Wednesday morning. Pastor Dante is here tonight and he'll be here with you tomorrow morning. I'm so happy that he's joining us on Kingdom Connection. It means that is showing a certain level of freedom to be able to join our program tonight. But you know what we're about? We're about teaching people and lifting them up, lifting up their standard. And I'm hoping that we'll be doing that with him. And all the rest of you who will join us in our quest to keep educating the country and bringing us to a place of positive movement. Have a good night.
We hang our heads in shame. We ask who to blame. For this moral of moral decay. Leadership gone through. The police in a stew. And the talking head will have a field day. But tell me what are our social values? And tell me how do we judge success? By a man's car, his clothes and his shoes. That is how we measure progress. I see the building skyscraper, things of stone and steel, holding stacks of blue paper. Things that men can steal, but no one takes the time. No time to build character. No, we're taking time. No time building character, and that is we don't go. Empires of with their silver and gold. Now mere footnotes on a history page. We call it Youngs of Rome with all their columns and domes. Our memories of a bygone age. Listen, the Greeks and Romans at their orgies. Days and nights cavorting in lust. But soon the plagues of locust and disease, they were crumbling into dust. Love for me, darling, just dive right in, follow my lead. I found a girl, beautiful and sweet. Well, I never knew you were the someone waiting for me.